The mysterious Airvolth war for Earth had been raging for months. The skies above were filled with the enemy's warships, powerful and relentless, pushing humanity's defenses to their breaking point. The Exodus, Earth's greatest warship, had been humanity's last line of defense, but even its vast firepower was starting to show cracks. The enemy's forces were too numerous and Earth's fleet was running out of time. Inside the Exodus Command Center, General Zoran stood in front of a large holographic map of Earth's defenses. His eyes scanned the data, trying to make sense of it all. The map was covered in red dots, marking the locations of alien ships that had breached Earth's borders. Their forces were everywhere, General. We're down to our last reserves, Captain Elena Dorsey said, her voice steady but filled with concern. Our ships are running low on fuel, and we can't hold them off for much longer. Zoran turned to her, his face grim. I know, Captain, but we can't give up. Not yet. Earth's future depends on this. As he spoke, a sudden alert rang out, cutting through the tension. The systems had picked up a new signal. At first, Zoran dismissed it as just another anomaly, something else the enemy was throwing at them. But then, the signal repeated itself. It was structured, not random. Someone or something was trying to communicate. Lieutenant Arla, what is it? Zoran asked, turning to the young officer at the communications station. Arla's fingers moved quickly over the controls. It's not a human transmission, General. It's coming from deep in space. It's unknown. But it's definitely a message, not a random burst of energy. Zoran's interest peaked. The last thing they needed right now was another threat, but there was something about the signal that felt different. It wasn't hostile, at least. Not yet. He leaned forward. Can we respond? Zoran asked. Lieutenant Arla nodded. We can try. But it may take time to decode. The signal is complex. It's not in any language we know. The crew waited in silence as Arla worked on the controls. The seconds felt like minutes, and Zoran could sense the unease growing in the room. Was this a trap, or was it something else? Something that could change the tide of the war. Finally, Arla's voice broke through the silence. General, I've got something. It's a message. I can translate part of it. It says, we are watching. We are coming to aid you. The room fell silent. The words were simple, but their meaning was profound. Aid? Who would help Earth at a time like this? Who would dare? The galaxy had been in chaos for so long that no one had come to their aid. Earth was left to fight on its own against a far more advanced force. General Zoran stood still for a moment, processing the message. He knew the enemy they were facing, an alien race that had nearly wiped out humanity's allies, and yet someone or something was coming to help. But who? Can you trace the source of the message? Zoran asked. Arla worked quickly, her eyes scanning the data. It's coming from a distant sector. Very far, almost on the edge of known space. I can't get an exact location, but it's coming closer. It's moving toward us. Zoran's mind raced. This was no time for surprises. Whoever was sending the message had to have advanced technology, enough to detect Earth's need for help from light years away. But could they trust them? Or was this a new trick from the enemy, trying to lure humanity into a trap? The tension in the room was palpable. The clock was ticking, and every decision counted. Zoran needed to make a choice. Do they take a risk and trust this unknown force? Or do they prepare for another battle? As the minutes passed, the crew continued to monitor the mysterious signal. The unknown fleet, whatever it was still on course, its trajectory unchanged. Zoran could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Captain Dorsey, Zoran said, his voice cutting through the tension, prepare the fleet for anything, but keep us on standby. If this is a trap, we'll be ready, but if this is our chance. He paused, looking out the viewport, where the warships of Earth's fleet were barely holding on against the alien invaders. If this is our chance, Zoran continued, we take it. We fight for Earth's future, no matter who's coming. Captain Dorsey nodded. Understood, General. We'll stay ready. Zoran turned back to the communications station. Lieutenant Arla, send a response. Tell them we're waiting. But be careful, we don't know who's out there. Arla hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Sending response now, General. The message went out, a simple one. We are here. We are ready. Come to our aid. As the signal was sent, the crew waited. The seconds stretched on. The enemy still loomed on the edge of Earth's defenses. But for the first time in a long while, there was hope. A mysterious force was coming to Earth's aid, and the question remained, who were they? And more importantly, why were they helping Earth at the brink of destruction? Asterisk, the unexpected Allied Exodus hung in the vast expanse of space, its crew on edge, waiting for the mysterious fleet to make its move. The silence was almost unbearable, each passing second adding more weight to the uncertainty. General Zoran paced in front of the command station, his mind racing. The message they had received was cryptic, and despite their best efforts, they couldn't get a clear read on the identity of their unknown allies. Who were they? What were their true intentions? Behind him, the officers continued to work, their fingers moving frantically across their consoles, trying to make sense of the data pouring in. The alien fleet had retreated for now, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before they regrouped and came for Earth again. The pressure was mounting, and the unknown fleet's arrival could mean the difference between survival and extinction. General, we've received another transmission. Lieutenant Arla's voice broke through his thoughts. He turned toward her immediately. His brow furrowed, the tension in the room was palpable. This could be it, the confirmation they had been waiting for. Put it through, Zoran ordered. The hologram flickered to life, and for the first time, the crew saw a visual of the unknown fleet. The ships were massive, their sleek, metallic bodies gleaming in the dim light of space. There was something otherworldly about them, advanced in ways humanity could only imagine, yet strangely familiar. The shapes of the ships resembled Earth's designs, but the technology was beyond anything humanity had ever developed then. A figure appeared on the screen. It wasn't human, its features were ethereal, almost fluid, with glowing eyes and a translucent skin that shimmered under the light. It looked regal, almost divine. But there was an undeniable force in its presence. We are the Etherians, the figure spoke. Its voice calm and resonant, yet carrying a weight of centuries behind it. We are the ones who have been watching, the ones who have been waiting for Earth's moment to come. Zoran's eyes widened as he listened. The Etherians. He had heard rumors of ancient races scattered throughout the galaxy, beings that were not just conquerors, but protectors, guardians of balance in the universe. Could this be one of them? Your people are in grave danger, the Etherian continued. The Empire's forces are only the beginning. The true threat is the Revenants, an ancient race that has long sought to control the galaxy. They were once defeated, but they are stirring again. They seek your planet, for it is the key to their final resurrection. The words hit like a punch to the gut. Zoran stepped forward. The Revenants? Are you saying they're behind the attack on Earth? The Etherian nodded. Yes. They are gathering strength in the shadows. They have been manipulating your enemies, feeding off the chaos they create. You've seen their handiwork in the war with the Empire. But Earth has something they cannot control, something that could tip the scales. Zoran's heart raced as the implications began to sink in. The Revenants were more dangerous than he had ever imagined. They were not just another alien force. They were ancient, long forgotten, and now returning to finish what they had started. If the Revenants are behind this, why are you helping us? Captain Dorsey's voice cut through the growing tension. Why would you risk everything to help Earth? The Etherian's glowing eyes softened, as if understanding the weight of her question. We have watched humanity for centuries. You are unlike any other species in the galaxy. Your spirit, your drive to survive, to adapt, has always intrigued us. You have the potential to do more than just survive. You could become the counterbalance to the Revenants, but first, you must prove that you are ready for the role you are destined to play. Zoran couldn't help but feel the weight of the words, humanity. A counterbalance to an ancient and powerful race? It seemed impossible, but deep down, he knew that this was no time for hesitation. Earth had been on the edge of destruction for so long, and now an ally had appeared, not just to help them fight, but to prepare them for something far bigger than the war they had been fighting. Tell us what we need to do, Zoran said, his voice steady but filled with determination. We'll fight, but we need to know how. The Etherian's expression remained calm, yet there was a glimmer of hope in its eyes. The path you must take is not simple, but it is clear. You will need to unlock the hidden potential of your species, the power buried deep within your DNA. You will need to awaken the ancient energy that flows through Earth itself. Only then can you stand against the Revenants. Zoran exchanged a look with Captain Dorsey. The idea of unlocking hidden powers within humanity was both thrilling and terrifying. But there was no time to waste. Earth was on the brink, and they had to act fast. Where do we begin? Zoran asked, his voice unwavering. The Etherian raised its hand, and suddenly, a holographic map appeared, glowing with symbols and energy. Lines. This is the first step. You must seek out the ley lines. They are ancient conduits of power that stretch beneath the surface of your planet. The Revenants know of them, but they cannot access them without your guidance. Zoran nodded, determination surging through him. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity had a chance to fight back, and for the first time in months, hope flickered in his chest. Then let's get to work, Zoran said, his voice filled with resolve. We won't let Earth fall. Not now, not ever. The Etherian nodded, and with a final glance at the crew, the transmission ended. The crew stood still for a moment, the weight of the new mission settling in. This wasn't just a battle for survival anymore. This was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. The journey to the Leylinist Exodus moved slowly, its engines humming with quiet power as it traveled toward Earth's surface. The crew had been briefed on the mission, the ley lines ancient conduits of energy buried deep within Earth's crust, were the key to unlocking humanity's true potential. The Ethereans had explained that these lines of power were not only ancient but also alive, waiting to be tapped into by those who understood their true nature. But humanity wasn't alone in its quest. The revenants, ancient and dangerous, were also aware of the ley lines, and they were determined to keep Earth from using them. General Zoran stood on the command deck, his gaze fixed on the planet below. Earth looked peaceful from a distance, but he knew better. The revenants were out there watching, and they wouldn't hesitate to strike. Humanity had always been underestimated, but now they were part of something much bigger. Captain Dorsey, status on the fleet? Zoran asked, breaking the silence. Dorsey turned from her console, her face tight with concentration. The fleet's ready, but we're moving into unknown territory. The ley lines are buried deep. We don't know exactly where they lead, but we do know they are the key to defeating the revenants. Zoran nodded. We have no choice. We can't wait for them to come to us. We go to them. This is humanity's chance. We find the ley lines, we unlock the power inside them, and we fight back. As the Exodus descended through the atmosphere, the crew could feel the tension building. The planet's surface was largely uncharted. Remote areas where the ley lines were thought to originate had been lost to time. No human force had dared venture into these regions before. The Ethereans had said that the lines were hidden, protected by natural forces that had prevented any one species from exploiting them, but now, with Earth on the brink of extinction, the race was on to uncover this ancient power. The ship hovered above a dense forest, its coordinates locked onto a remote mountain range far from human civilization. The atmosphere inside the ship was filled with a sense of urgency as the Exodus touched down. Zoran addressed the crew one last time before they began their descent. Stay alert. We don't know what we're going to face down there, but one thing's clear: this is humanity's only chance to take control of our future. With his command given, the crew began their preparations. The landing party consisted of Zoran, Captain Dorsey, Dr. Calloway, and a small team of military personnel. The mission was clear: locate the ley lines, activate the dormant energy, and return with whatever they could find. It was a task fraught with danger, but it was the only way to ensure humanity's place in the galaxy. As the team moved through the dense jungle, Zoran felt a strange sense of awe. They were walking in ancient territory, a place that had been untouched by time. The trees around them were massive, their trunks twisting upward, thick with moss. The air was heavy with humidity. But there was something else in the air, a feeling that this was no ordinary jungle. Dr. Calloway, usually focused on the technical aspects of missions, had a far-off look in his eyes. He looked at Zoran and said, "Do you feel that? There's a hum in the air, almost like something's resonating with us." Zoran nodded. He, too, could feel it now, a faint, vibrating energy in the air like a pulse. The ley lines were near, and the closer they got, the stronger the pull. They had arrived at the place that would determine humanity's future. As they trekked through the thick underbrush, Zoran's mind wandered to the revenants. What were they really? The Ethereans had said they were ancient beings, bound by old laws that had governed the galaxy for eons. Their pursuit of Earth wasn't just a military campaign. It was something deeper, something more personal. They needed the ley lines, and they would stop at nothing to ensure that humanity didn't access them. Suddenly, Zoran's comlink buzzed. "General, we're picking up something on the scanners." "It's not our fleet." Captain Dorsey's voice was filled with urgency. "It's an unknown force. They're closing in." Zoran's heart raced. The revenants, he muttered under his breath. They had found them. The tension that had been hanging over them was now a reality. The revenants were coming for Earth's final hope, and the crew was running out of time. With the pressure mounting, the team quickened their pace. They pushed forward through the thick trees until they finally arrived at the entrance of a cave. The cave was unlike any natural formation Zoran had seen before. It seemed to pulse, the walls glowing with an ethereal light. Inside, the air was cooler, but the energy was palpable. The ley lines were here, and they were waiting. Zoran took a step inside, the walls glowing brighter with each footfall. As he and his team entered the cave, the energy intensified. There, at the center, was an ancient stone altar, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change as the team approached. The ley lines were alive, reacting to their presence. Dr. Calloway stepped forward, his voice filled with awe. "It's incredible. This is the heart of Earth's energy. This is the key." Zoran turned to the crew. "Activate the power. We can't wait any longer. The revenants are close, and we need this power to fight back." The crew worked quickly, activating the mechanisms hidden within the altar as the stone began to glow with energy. The ley lines pulsed, filling the cave with blinding light. The power surged through the walls, coursing into the ship's systems. Humanity had just unlocked an ancient force of power that had been hidden for centuries, waiting for the right moment to be released. And now, that moment had come. The awakening Power there in the cave hummed with a low, rhythmic pulse as the energy from the ley lines began to surge through the walls. Each heartbeat seemed to sync with the power filling the space. General Zoran felt the rush of it. A strange warmth spreading through his body. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced. An ancient force that felt both alien and familiar. It was as though the very core of Earth itself was waking up, reacting to the presence of the humans standing in the heart of its energy. Dr. Calloway and the rest of the team worked quickly, their hands steadied despite the tension. The ley lines were vast, but humanity had never attempted to tap into anything like this before. Ancient knowledge had been passed down, but nothing in the records had prepared them for the depth of power they were about to awaken. As the last mechanism clicked into place, a loud crack echoed through the cave, and the stone altar began to glow a fierce, radiant blue. The ground beneath their feet vibrated, and the walls of the cave pulsed in response to the energy flooding the area. It was almost as if the ley lines themselves were alive, awakening from an eternal slumber. "We've done it," Dr. Calloway said, his voice filled with awe. "The energy is flowing through the ship. It's unbelievable." Zoran's heart raced. The power they had just unlocked was beyond comprehension. The alien force, the Revenants, had been right to fear this. It wasn't just raw energy. It was potential, the kind of power that could reshape the galaxy, but now they had to figure out how to use it. The Exodus was connected to the ley lines now, and that meant the future of Earth and the galaxy was at stake. As the crew gathered around the altar, the air seemed to grow heavier. Suddenly, the ground trembled once more. The cave's entrance was shaking, the very air outside vibrating with a dangerous energy. The Revenants were close. They knew humanity had discovered the ley lines, and they wouldn't let them wield such power without a fight. Zoran stepped back, his hand hovering over his communicator. "Captain Dorsey, status on the fleet on the other side of the planet." The Exodus and the rest of the fleet were preparing for what was about to come. They knew the Revenants were coming, but now, with the ley lines activated, they had something the invaders could never have imagined. It was time to prove that humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. "General, they're here," Captain Dorsey's voice came through the communicator. "The Revenants are closing in fast. We've identified their ships, huge, massive, and deadly." Zoran's eyes hardened as he looked at his team. "It's time. We're not just going to defend Earth, we're going to fight for it. The ley lines are our weapon, and we will use them to take control of our destiny." As the alien ships began to approach, the Exodus powered up its newly enhanced weapons systems, drawn from the ancient energy of the ley lines. The crew could feel the power coursing through the ship. It was unlike anything they had ever experienced. There was no hesitation, no fear. It was as if the Exodus itself was alive, imbued with the strength of the ley lines, ready to protect its home at all costs. Outside, the battle began. The sky above Earth darkened as the Revenants descended, their ships casting ominous shadows over the planet. The first wave of attacks came fast and furious, but the Exodus was ready. With newfound power, its weapons unleashed devastating blasts of energy tearing through the invaders' ships. The ancient energy coursing through the ships seemed to fuel their every move, making them faster, stronger, and more precise than the Revenants had ever expected. On the ground, Zoran and his team watched the sky as the battle unfolded. The Exodus and the other ships were engaging the alien fleet in the atmosphere. But the fight wasn't just in the sky, it was now a war for Earth's soul. And humanity's resolve was stronger than ever. "General, the energy from the ley lines is fully integrated into the fleet," Dr. Calloway said, excitement in his voice. "We can use it to amplify our forces, strengthen our weapons, even control the environment." Zoran nodded, his expression fierce. "We'll need every bit of that power. The Revenants won't stop until they have Earth and the ley lines under their control. Will give them a fight they won't soon forget." As the battle raged on, the Exodus fired back with unimaginable force. The energy from the ley lines seemed to bend space itself, making the enemy's attacks less effective, while amplifying humanity's defenses. The tide was turning. The Revenants had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now they would pay the price. Asterisk, the rising furried battle above Earth raged on with relentless intensity. The sky, once a peaceful canvas of stars, was now a chaotic battlefield. Humanity's fleet, empowered by the ancient energy of the ley lines, stood firm, countering the overwhelming force of the Revenants. Ships exploded in bursts of light, and the sky was alive with the crackle of energy blasts and the thunder of weapons. But as the Exodus led the charge, something unexpected began to unfold. The Revenants had fought many wars, but their forces had never encountered an opponent like this before. As they attempted to regroup and launch their next wave of attacks, they found themselves facing a new kind of resistance, one that came from the heart of Earth itself. On board the Exodus, General Zoran watched as the alien ships began to falter. Their coordinated strikes were losing their precision. The human fleet's attacks, now enhanced by the energy from the ley lines, were tearing through their ships with devastating efficiency. But Zoran knew this was only the beginning. The Revenants were far from defeated, and their leaders were not the type to admit defeat easily. Captain Dorsey, Zoran said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. We've got to keep pressing. This may be a tactical retreat, but they're not going to back down. Prepare for a counterstrike. Dorsey nodded, her fingers flying across the control panel. The crew was on edge, each person aware that the battle could shift in an instant. Despite the newfound strength Earth had gained from the ley lines, there was still a dangerous unknown lingering. The core leadership of the Revenants, meanwhile. Dr. Calloway stood at the edge of the command center, watching the battle unfold. General, he said, his voice tinged with worry, this energy we're using, it's incredibly powerful. But I'm starting to see fluctuations in the system. If we push too hard, we could risk overloading the ley line channels. We could lose control. Zoran turned to him, his expression hardening. We can't afford to lose control now, Dr. Calloway, not when we're so close. The Revenants, seeing their forces beginning to falter, made a desperate move from the depths of space. A massive ship appeared, unlike any they had sent before. It was colossal, its shape angular and ominous, with weapons that seemed to absorb the surrounding energy rather than just firing it. It was clear this was the Revenant leader's flagship, the one ship that commanded the entire fleet. The Exodus and its allies immediately shifted focus, preparing to face this new threat. The flagship's rival signified that the Revenants were now deploying their final weapon, a weapon capable of turning the tide in their favor. The Exodus could not face this threat alone. The entire fleet would need to work together to stop the flagship before it could deploy its full arsenal. As the Revenant flagship moved into position, its weapons charged and ready, the Exodus and the rest of the fleet began to form a defensive line. It was a desperate moment. The glowing energy from the ley lines coursed through their systems, but there was no guarantee that they could withstand the sheer force of the Revenant's flagship. We need to find a weak point, General Zoran said, his voice sharp. Dr. Calloway, is there anything in the ley line energy that can disrupt the enemy's shield? Dr. Calloway's hands flew over the console. The Revenant's flagship has an energy shield that absorbs all incoming energy, but I think we can overload it. If we use the energy from the ley lines to disrupt the shield's core, it should weaken. But we need to act fast. Zoran nodded. Let's do it. We take their flagship down now. The Exodus charged forward, flanked by the human fleet, and unleashed a massive barrage of energy, but the Revenant's flagship absorbed the blasts, its energy shield glowing brighter and stronger with each attack. Zoran's heart raced as he saw the shield remain intact. This isn't working, Captain Dorsey shouted. The flagship's shield is absorbing everything. We can't break through. Dr. Calloway's voice broke through the chaos. General, we need to redirect the ley line energy from our systems into the fleet's weapons. We can channel it through a focused beam. The shock will disrupt the shield's core. Zoran turned quickly. Do it, now. The Exodus and its fleet reoriented their weapons, channeling the ley line energy into a concentrated beam aimed directly at the flagship. The ship's systems hummed with power as the beam shot forward, connecting with the Revenant's flagship's shield. At first, nothing happened. Then, a shockwave rippled through space as the beam intensified and the shield began to falter. The flagship's energy field flickered, and for a moment, it seemed as if they had failed. But then, with a sudden burst of light, the shield collapsed entirely. The crew of the Exodus held their breath as the Revenant flagship was exposed. The flagship's core, once shielded by its energy barrier, was now vulnerable. The human fleet fired everything they had at it, missiles, plasma bolts, and the concentrated power from the ley lines, all of it targeting the flagship's weak spot. The Revenant flagship exploded in a massive fireball, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The crew of the Exodus stared at the aftermath, a stunned silence filling the command center. But as the smoke cleared, Zoran knew this wasn't the end. The Revenants were still out there, and their true leader hadn't shown up yet. They had just won a crucial battle, but the war was far from over. We've won this round, Zoran said, turning to his crew. But don't celebrate yet. The Revenants are still coming, and we're going to have to fight for Earth's future every step of the way. Asterisk, the price of power. The explosion of the Revenant's flagship sent shockwaves through space, the light from the explosion reverberating across the battlefield. The Exodus and its fleet stood in the eerie quiet that followed, surrounded by debris and the remains of what had once been the symbol of the Revenant's might. General Zoran, standing on the bridge, took a deep breath, his hand gripping the arm of his chair. They had won this battle, but the cost was already weighing on him. We've struck a blow to their pride, but we can't ignore the larger picture, Zoran said, his voice low but determined. The Revenants will regroup and they'll come back with more force. We have no time to waste. Captain Dorsey nodded grimly. The battle was a success, but we're still heavily outnumbered. We've barely scratched the surface of their true strength. General Zoran's eyes scanned the vastness of space. The enemy fleet had been dealt a devastating blow, but this wasn't the end of the war, far from it. The Revenants' true power remained hidden and their real leader had yet to show themselves. Zoran knew the worst was yet to come. Prepare for another wave, Zoran ordered. Turning to his communications officer, send word to the fleet. We need every ship at maximum readiness. The Revenants will come for us and we need to be ready. On the surface of Earth, Dr. Calloway was standing at the newly activated leyline nexus, a cavernous network beneath the planet that had been dormant for millennia. The energy from the ley lines had connected with Earth's core, and now humanity had access to powers beyond their understanding. The world was changing, but at what cost? Calloway felt the energy in the air, its pulse, its power he could sense. It drawing him in, tugging at something deep within his soul. Was this how the Revenants had once felt? Were they, too, drawn to this ancient power? But as Dr. Calloway knelt, his hand brushing against the glowing symbols on the stone altar that marked the center of the ley-line nexus, he felt something shift. The ground beneath him trembled. A low hum rising from deep within the earth itself. Suddenly, the air was thick with energy and a blinding light surged from the nexus. A vision flooded his mind. It was as if he was seeing through the eyes of someone or something ancient and powerful. The image was fleeting, but it was unmistakable, a dark, ancient force rising from the very depths of Earth itself, ready to consume everything in its path. Dr. Calloway stumbled back, gasping for breath. The vision had vanished as quickly as it had come, leaving him shaken and uncertain. General, he called over his comm link, his voice trembling. The ley lines are reacting to something beneath Earth. This power is much older than anything we've known, and I think the Revenants are aware of it. Back in the Exodus's command center, the team had barely begun to process their victory before the next wave came crashing down. The Revenants had not been deterred. Instead, they had unleashed their full force. Suddenly, the alarms blared as the bridge crew scrambled to respond. Captain Dorsey's voice rang out, General, the Revenants are sending an even larger fleet and they're targeting Earth itself. They're focusing on the Nexus. Zoran's face hardened as he saw the incoming threat on the radar. The Revenants had detected humanity's use of the ley lines, and now they were determined to erase this potential power before it could be fully unlocked. Earth wasn't just a battleground anymore, it was the key to galactic control, and the Revenants would stop at nothing to claim it. We can't let them get to the Nexus, Zoran said, his voice resolute. Captain Dorsey, I need all ships ready for a defensive push. We fight for Earth. And we fight for this power. We won't let it fall into their hands. As the fleet prepared for another fight, Zoran turned to Dr. Calloway, his expression darkening. We have to finish this, Dr. Calloway. If the Revenants control the Nexus, Earth will fall. Everything we've done will be for nothing. Dr. Calloway nodded grimly. The ley lines have awakened something. I'm not sure what it is, but if we don't control it, the Revenants will use it to destroy us all. The Exodus and its fleet surged toward the heart of the battle. The Revenants' forces had grown even larger, their ships a tidal wave of destructive power. As the two sides clashed once more, the energy from the ley lines was harnessed to power the human fleet's weapons. But something was wrong as the battle escalated. The energy from the ley lines began to surge uncontrollably. It was as if the planet itself was fighting back. Zoran could feel the power of the ley lines coursing through the ship. But it wasn't under control anymore. The energy was wild, unpredictable. General, something's wrong. Dr. Calloway's voice echoed through the command center. The ley lines, they're overloading. The energy is becoming unstable. It's feeding directly into the battle and we're losing control. The Exodus shook violently as the uncontrollable power from the ley lines surged through its systems. The crew struggled to maintain control as the ship's systems flickered and sparked. Zoran clenched his jaw. The Revenants had been right all along. This power was too much for humanity to handle. But there was no turning back. Humanity had awakened something ancient, something dangerous, and now they had to fight to control it. Full throttle, Zoran shouted, we'll take the fight to them. We won't let them take this planet. Not without a fight. The battle continued, but now, the war was no longer just about defending Earth. It was about mastering a power that could either save humanity or destroy it. The heart of the stormed battle outside was reaching its breaking point. The Revenants had launched their final assault, their fleet a storm of destruction barreling toward Earth's last defense. But now, inside the Exodus, General Zoran and his crew were faced with an even greater challenge. The ley lines, once a source of hope, had become a volatile force, wild and uncontrollable. The energy coursing through their ship and through the surface of Earth was now threatening to tear apart everything they had fought for, General. The power surge is increasing. Dr. Calloway's voice was filled with urgency, his hands moving rapidly over the console. The ley lines are destabilizing. If we don't get control, it could destroy Earth entirely. This energy isn't just chaotic, it's trying to override everything we've worked for. Zoran's eyes flashed with determination. We knew the ley lines held immense power, but we didn't realize how dangerous it could be if we didn't control it properly. But we can't stop now. We fight through this, or everything will be lost. Captain Dorsey was monitoring the fleet's movements, her face lit by the red glow of the warning lights. General, the Revenant's flagship is moving into position. They've targeted the ley line nexus directly. If they get to it before we do, the Revenants will take control of everything. Zoran's pulse quickened. The stakes had never been higher. The Revenants knew exactly what Earth had discovered, and now they were coming to claim it. The ley lines, humanity's key to survival, could easily become their downfall. If the Revenants reached them first, Captain Dorsey, take us into the heart of the storm, Zoran commanded. Prepare for a full-force offensive. We will not let them seize control of the ley lines. As the Exodus powered forward, pushing through the incoming alien fire, the crew felt the immense strain of the power from the ley lines coursing through their systems. The ship groaned and shuddered under the pressure, but it held together barely. Each breath felt like it could be their last, but humanity was not giving up, not now. Not when they were so close to winning. Dr. Calloway's hands were shaking as he worked furiously to reroute the ley line energy to the ship's weapons systems. The Revenants had no idea what they were about to face. Humanity's new strength wasn't just raw firepower. It was something older, something ancient, and it was connected to the very heart of Earth. General, Calloway said through gritted teeth, I've managed to stabilize the flow of energy. We should be able to channel it into a concentrated beam. But we need to be careful. If we push too hard, we risk overloading the entire system. Do it. Zoran replied firmly, we need this power. We need to stop the Revenants once and for all. The Exodus surged toward the heart of the battle, its weapons now crackling with ley line energy. The crew braced themselves as they entered the final phase of the conflict. The Revenant's flagship loomed ahead, its massive form casting a shadow across the battlefield. It was bigger than anything the Exodus had faced, but Zoran didn't hesitate. Humanity's future was at stake. They had no choice but to fight back. Exodus to fleet. Zoran's voice rang out, steady and commanding. This is it. Take out their flagship, and we'll have a chance. We fight for Earth's future. Now, charge all weapons and prepare for the final assault. The fleet, now united and empowered by the ley lines, launched their attack. The alien ships were no match for the combined power of humanity and its newfound strength. The Revenant's fleet scattered as the Exodus fired a concentrated beam of energy from the ley lines. Hitting the Revenant's flagship dead center, the ship's energy shield flickered, then collapsed under the strain. The beam ripped through the flagship's hull, and with a deafening explosion, the Revenant's flagship was no more. Zoran watched as the massive alien vessel disintegrated in a fiery explosion. The Revenant's forces retreating in disarray. The victory was theirs, but as the alien ships retreated, a new wave of tension surged through the crew. The Revenants had been pushed back, but they had not been entirely defeated. The ley lines had given humanity the power to strike back, but that power came at a cost. The ship was severely damaged and the energy from the ley lines was still unstable. Zorin looked out over the battlefield. The Revenant's fleet was retreating, but their defeat was not final. There was still much to be done, and the ley lines, the key to Earth's survival, were still a mystery. We've won today, Zoran said, his voice carrying the weight of the moment. But the war is far from over. The Revenants will return. And when they do, humanity will be ready. Dr. Calloway stepped forward, his expression thoughtful. The ley lines are just the beginning. We don't fully understand this power yet, but we've tapped into something far older than any of us realized. And that's not just a threat to the Revenants. It's a game changer for every force in the galaxy. Zoran nodded. Then we prepare. Earth may have won this battle, but it's only the first chapter of something far bigger. The Revenants are only one threat. We have much more to face.